Alright, and we're live. Alright, and we're live. Alright. Yeah, guys,
and
tonight I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to update a few of my virtual machines. Give me just a second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
guys,
guys,
and
tonight I
we're
think what I'm going to do is I'm going to update a few of my virtual machines. Give me just a second. Yeah, guys,
and
tonight
we're
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to update a few of my virtual machines. I might have started the stream about a minute early.
Yeah, guys, and we're
what I'm going to do.
It's
is
8:30
I'm
now.
gonna update a few of my virtual
So,
machines. I'm going to go ahead and I might have
this
started
party
the stream
started here
about
a
a
minute
minute second.
early.
Yeah, guys,
and
what I'm going to do.
It's
is
8:30
I'm gonna
now.
Update a few of my virtual
So,
machines. I'm going to go ahead and launch VirtualBox. I might have started the stream here.
I
Give me
have
just a second.
and
What I'm going to do.
12,
It's
8:30 now.
15. A few of my virtual machines.
I'm
gonna go ahead and launch VirtualBox.
running.
Might
Get
have
this
started
party
that
started
stream.
here.
Need to be
I
updated.
have
Just a second. What I'm going to do.
12,
It's
8:15.
A few of my virtual machines.
I'm
going to
gonna
go ahead and
start
with some of the easy ones, some of the ones that need to be updated. It's going to go pretty quick, pretty smooth. Go ahead and 15. A few of my virtual machines. I'm going to go ahead and last time I started these ones, all the rolling release upgrades. It's going to go pretty quick, pretty smooth. Especially 15. A few of my virtual machines. I'm going to go ahead and last time I started these ones, all the rolling release upgrades. It's going to go pretty quick, pretty smooth. Especially 15. One of the Gen 2 virtual machines. I'm going to go ahead and last time I started these ones, all the rolling release upgrades. This evening, I'm going to start with some problems, especially 15 elementary OS virtual machines. I'm going to go ahead and last time I started these ones, all the rolling release upgrades. This evening, I'm going to start with some problems, especially. Trying to think when I did elementary. Let's see. Looking back through my video history here. January 26th. January 26th. I reviewed elementary OS here on the channel. I hope I remember what password I created for this virtual machine. That one wasn't it. Okay, looks like I got it on the second try. You know what? How much memory is this virtual machine using? I didn't even think about that. Also, monitor display. Sometimes I do have these things set to run on 3 monitors, but I only have it set for 1 in this case. I do need to check all of these before I actually launch them. 2 CPUs of my 6-core CPU, that's fine. Let's see. And give me just a second here to play around with some of the settings here. I gave that virtual machine 6 gigs of RAM. Because I'm streaming tonight, I don't want any of these virtual machines to take that much RAM. I'm going to lower that to just 2 gigs. And I'm going to go back, log in again, and then run the updater. This evening, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through as many of these virtual machines as I can. Just run the updates. Probably just open a terminal and run the updates in the terminal and all these virtual machines. I may discuss some of the latest news and goings on in the Linux world. May discuss some things going on my channel. May read through some viewer comments. Had a lot of people contact me in Facebook in the last week or two. Getting a lot more activity over there. People messaging me about what distro should they personally install on their machine, and giving me their history, background, whether they're coming from Windows or they're new to Linux. And I would like to open a terminal here in Elementary OS. Control-Alt-T does not open a terminal. Control-Alt-T usually opens the terminal in Ubuntu and Ubuntu-based distros, but I guess they don't have that key binding set here in Elementary. So I'm going to run sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And give it the root password. Yeah, I haven't actually logged into Elementary OS since I installed it. And that was way back on January 29th, so about 3 weeks ago. There are 309 updates available. Now, many of these were probably available when I installed it. I don't think I ran a upgrade when I did the review, so I'm not exactly sure how old the ISO was that I installed. This is what was the code name of this? Elementary OS Loki. Not sure how long that's been out, but 309 updates. Could take a minute. Probably won't be too slow though. Being an Ubuntu-based distro, using the Ubuntu repos, updates in Ubuntu are usually very fast. Blazing fast compared to like some of the Gentoo-based distros that I may or may not get around to updating on camera this evening. Looking around a little bit at Elementary again. Again, this is the first time I've revisited this since reviewing it. Very lightweight in terms of applications that are installed by default. Not a lot of programs installed by default. Basically, this pane right here that has 15 programs, that is it. That's pretty much everything installed on Elementary OS Loki. The second page only has one program, so about 16 programs, graphical programs installed. Many of them custom Elementary applications. I think they're doing their own text editor and music player. Of course, they create their own custom desktop environment. The Pantheon desktop environment is what the desktop environment is. They use a dock here at the bottom of the screen. This dock is called Plank. It's a very lightweight, minimal dock. Plank is great. For those of you that prefer using a dock instead of a panel, even in some, like lightweight, minimal window managers such as something like OpenBox or Fluxbox or anything like that. If you would rather, instead of using something like the Tent 2 panel, you would prefer a dock, Plank is a really good option because, again, it's pretty lightweight. It's not that feature rich, doesn't have a lot of customization and not a lot of options to it, but again, it's lightweight, very fast, very responsive. If you wanted a much more customizable dock, something a little bit more robust, Cairo dock is a much better option. These days, I really don't spend a lot of time trying to tweak my systems as far as, adding a lot of pizzazz to, the desktop. I don't want a whole lot of effects or, I don't need wobbly windows or exploding windows or any of that kind of stuff. All of that stuff was really neat when I first started using Linux. But, after a while you realize, well, it's kind of a gimmick. When you turn all that stuff off and just focus on getting the fastest, the cleanest desktop experience, you really realize the power of using something like Linux over Windows, for example. And Ritual 301 is in the chat room. How's the night treating you? Great so far, Ritual. Just relaxing here this evening. Got home from work a couple hours ago, had dinner, drinking a beer right now. Actually, have tomorrow off, so probably just going to lounge around tomorrow. May record a couple of videos. I'll probably record at least one and publish one tomorrow. But I'd like to get a couple of things recorded tomorrow. It's good to do as much as I can on a day off. It's really hard for me to record some of these videos on days that I work. If you put in, 8 or 10 hour shifts, and then of course life outside of work. I try to make it to the gym, at least 2 or 3 times a week too. Trying to stay in shape a little bit. Actually became a bit of a kind of a gym junkie. About 3 years ago, I just was really out of shape and was having a lot of problems, back problems especially. And I got into the gym, and it was amazing how much better I felt after starting to work out a little bit. A lot of the aches and pains and stuff that I'd been living with for years, they just went away. And after a while, working out, it becomes like anything else. You get into a routine, into a habit. It's strange not to, work out 2-3 times a week once you've done it, for a full year, 2 years, 3 years. I see a lot of people that, struggle with things like that in life. They want to get into something, whether it's working out or eating better or just improving their life in some way. And they think it's something hard, they can never do it. But it's like anything else. It's like when you were in school. You didn't want to go to school every day. Now somebody made you, but you know what? You went. You didn't like it, you just did it every day. After a while, it just became normal. You go to work, same thing. Most people hate their jobs, but you know what? You just do it. Do it every day. After a while, it just becomes the normal thing. So that takes up a bit of my time, other than my real job. Also, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the channel. I did mention it on Big Daddy Linux Live last week. For those of you that watched his most recent episode, I actually joined their live stream. And I mentioned on their live stream that I have a couple of music degrees. And I actually do try to teach a couple of private lessons every week. I've got about 3 kids that want private lessons from me, which keeps me playing a little bit, because I would probably never pick up an instrument these days, as little time as I have, if I didn't teach these kids. So it keeps me in playing shape a little bit. Langston is in the chat. Langston said, "What's up?" What's up, Langston? iCubit, what VM are we updating? This is Elementary OS Loki. It actually was a pretty big update. 309 packages, but it's going very fast. It's an Ubuntu-based distro. Ritual asks, the instrument, my main instrument is trombone. Yeah, that's actually what I went to school for. So I actually teach a middle schooler trombone lessons once a week. Got a couple of high school students to clarinet, flute. Tobias is in the chat. He says hello. iCubit, why do you have so many VMs? That's a good question. Some of them I keep around a little bit, especially the rolling release ones. I just like to, check in, at least once a week, update them, just to see if they break. Just for my own personal information and amusement. The static releases like Elementary, and I'm going to update Ubuntu Mate here in a little bit, Fedora. I keep those because demonstration purposes on this channel, like if I want to review a certain application in a certain distribution, it's good to have those distributions available. For example, if I want to review like the latest snap package of a popular program, it's good to have a VM of Ubuntu laying around, because I'm not currently running Ubuntu on my main machine. You know, I'm running Manjaro on my main machine. So anything I want to do Arch related, that's fine on my main machine, but if I want to do anything Ubuntu related or anything Fedora related, I like to keep a lot of these VMs around. Gentoo related, I keep at least 2 or 3 Gentoo based distros in VMs. Right now I think I have Red Core and Sabian VMs. Sometimes I keep a Calculate Linux VM going too. But for space, sometimes I have to make some choices. I have about 15 VMs on this machine, and that's about the limit on drive space, because I only have a 500 gigabyte SSD on my desktop, and I have over 100 gigs of music actually on this SSD drive. So really I only have about 350 gigs of space on this drive. I give each of these virtual machines 15 gigs usually. So you can see, it doesn't take very many virtual machines to fill the SSD drive. And I actually have filled it pretty much to 100% a couple of times by accident, where it's pretty much locked up my machine. So, matter of fact, I did an install of Blue Star Linux last night. I did a review of Blue Star Linux, and I forgot to actually check my hard drive space before I made that VM, but everything's working correctly on the computer. I can tell though whenever it's about to get, the drive is about to be completely full. Nothing works right. Keyboard, mouse, screen starts acting funny. You can tell that the computer is really about to lock up in a big way. Back to the chat. Ritual mentions his dad was a trombone player. Your dad must be a cool guy, because the trombone really is the greatest instrument. Tobias, what do you think about the Ubuntu data collect stuff? I actually am not that concerned about it, to be honest. I think a lot of the blogs, news articles, and a lot of the YouTube video guys out there are blowing it way out of proportion. A lot of them are really trying to sensationalize what's going on. It's not really that big of a deal, to be honest. Actually, you know what? I'm about to wrap up this virtual machine here. Elementary's almost through. As soon as I finish elementary and start the next update, since we'll have a few minutes, I'm going to pull up the actual mailing list, the Ubuntu mailing list, where I think the guy's name was William Cook over at Canonical, where he first posted that bit about the Ubuntu data collection. We'll just read his post word for word, and it's really not that big of a deal when you actually read what they're about to do. But you see some YouTubers out there that, Ubuntu is about to, read every file on your system, or read your browser history, or, they're going to start tracking your IPs, and, none of that, of course, is true. iCubic, what's my favorite window manager? Well, OpenBox is clearly my favorite window manager. If you've watched a little bit of my channel, it's my favorite anyway, as far as the one I tend to use the most. I'm comfortable in a few different window managers. I like OpenBox for the most part. If I'm going to do a floating window manager, OpenBox is usually it. If I do a tiling window manager, there's several tiling window managers I like. Xmonad is probably my favorite, although I really like Qtile, which I'm going to do a video on Qtile sometime this week, because it is the next window manager in the Obscure Window Manager project. So, awesome window manager. I lived in it for a little while. It's nice. Alan Rocco, well, what do you think about projects like Architect or Zen Installer to install Arch Linux easily? I think that's a great idea. For years, I've thought the Arch install could be streamlined a bit. Anyway, Elementary has finished updating, so let me just power off this machine. Uh-oh, I killed the chat window. Well, you know what? Let me go ahead. I'm going to get Ubuntu Mate 17 1710 updating, because I know I haven't updated that one in a long, long time. A long, long time means when I installed this back in October of last year when it came out. That was probably the last time I updated Ubuntu Mate 1710. So this one's going to need a little bit of attention. Alright, getting my chat back up. Oh, we've got Mark Ney. He plays the tuba and the trombone, or the trumpet. Yeah, I played a little bit of tuba. Wasn't that great at tuba. Did teach tuba a little bit. Never played a woodwind before. Want to learn tenor sax, yeah. Never really cared for the sax. I love the clarinet. Love the flute. I actually recorded myself a little bit earlier today playing the alto recorder, just testing out my Blue Yeti microphone that I bought a few weeks back. I made a video about my Blue Yeti microphone. Matter of fact, I may play a little bit of me playing the alto recorder later if you guys would like to hear me. Ritual says we should start a band in here. Yeah. Shater. I hope that's how you pronounce that username. Hello, Derek, in the chat. Greetings. Anyone, I guess, watching Lunduke's marathon lately? I caught a little bit of Lunduke. I watch most of Brian Lunduke's stuff. He's a good guy. What am I doing here in Ubuntu Mate? This is an open box session. No wonder. I was sitting here waiting for Mate to load. You know what? Let me exit out of this open box session, because I'm sure you guys don't want to see a hacked up open box session in Ubuntu Mate. I probably did that to show you guys how to install OpenBox in Debian or Ubuntu. I forget why I installed OpenBox on here. Let's see, where is the terminal in here? Well, you know what? This is Ubuntu, so Control-Alt-T gets us a terminal. So sudo apt update and end sudo apt upgrade. Let's see how many updates this is going to be. It's actually not that bad. 57. I thought it would be much worse. Actually, Elementary had a lot more updates than Ubuntu Mate. We've got Santo here in the chat. He's asking about trying using OpenBox like a tiling window manager, using a bit of configuration. Yeah. Matter of fact, in my last live stream, you guys saw that I configured OpenBox a little bit to have some tiling functionality. I still have that virtual machine, by the way. We may update it, and I may demonstrate that again. John LaPierre also here. What is the main reason you use a window manager versus a full desktop environment? Mainly because the full desktop environment usually contains stuff that I don't care to use anyway. For example, say OpenBox. I like the window manager. I like the right-click menu. But the full LXDE desktop environment, which uses the OpenBox window manager, I don't care for the LX panel. I don't care for the LX menu. I would much rather use the much more configurable OpenBox right-click menu. If I'm not going to use their panel, then I don't need all the extra stuff that runs in the background, all the like applet stuff, the systray stuff. So you get actually a much lighter weight desktop doing that too, using less CPU, less RAM. But again, that's a personal preference for me, and probably for most people that go that window manager route. Visual Vengeance is in the chat. What's going on? It's giving Lunduke some love. Yeah, Lunduke deserves all the love he gets. He's one of the better Linux personalities out there. It's a personable kind of guy. You can see why a lot of people really like him. And Visual Vengeance, you're doing some nice stuff with your videos. Keep it up, buddy. Thanks, Visual. And I used to play drums, violin, and guitar, but not anymore. Long break from music. Sigh. Yeah, and that's really why I recently started doing some private teaching, just to play again, just to keep in shape. Well, you know, I mentioned that we would pull up the Ubuntu data collecting stuff while we were waiting on this update, and I forgot all about it. Let me open that up here in Firefox. Alright, so Will Cook over at Canonical. This is the post that started all the controversy, I guess. Dear all, we want to be able to focus our engineering efforts on the things that matter most to our users. And in order to do that, we need to get some more data about the sort of setups our users have, what software they are running. We would like to add a checkbox to the installer. Exact wording to be determined, but along the lines of, quote, send diagnostic information to help improve Ubuntu, unquote. This would be checked by default. The result of having that box checked would be information from the installation sent over HTTPS to a service from yada yada yada, but the data would include Ubuntu flavor, Ubuntu version, network connectivity, CPU, RAM, disk size, screen resolution, GPU vendor, OEM manufacturer, location but not the IP information, installation time, auto login enabled or not, disk layout, third-party software selected or not, download updates during install or not, live patch enabled or not. And that is the information they want. There's really nothing scary in there to me, and you know, I kind of take privacy seriously. I mean, I'm not one of those like tinfoil hat kind of guys that, or you know, those that try to completely disconnect themselves from the rest of the world, and in particular the internet. For, you know, I'm not a privacy nut, but you know, I do care about my privacy, and really nothing about this bothers me. It's ticked on in the installer as long as they mention, hey, we're about to get this information from your install. And a lot of it is about the install, about whether people really want that third-party software or not, whether they want to bother downloading updates during the install or not. And then stuff, you know, about your system, like your graphics card. What graphics card are you running? You know, one of the big problems in Linux still is driver support, in particular video drivers and Wi-Fi drivers. And if they know a little bit more about my machine, if that helps us get better driver support, I'm all for it. As a matter of fact, I would probably just leave that box ticked on, myself personally. But for those that don't want to share that information, that's fine too. I really don't see this as a problem. I don't see this as any more of an invasion than something like AppPort, which has always been installed on Ubuntu. You know, it sends the crash reports back to Canonical. Anyway, so I don't think it's nearly as big a deal, again, as a lot of the YouTubers out there made it. A lot of them have made some pretty sensational videos. And I know why they do it. You know, it gets views. I know why a lot of the bloggers are making some crazy headlines about that particular story. But it's all clickbait. Again, it's to get views. But when you see the response in the Ubuntu mailing list, or the Ubuntu forums, or Ask Ubuntu, or the Ubuntu IRC chat, or nobody really cares as far as, actual Ubuntu users. There's no like backlash from this. So matter of fact, I would say this is less of a story than them including the Amazon search results and the dash and the Unity dash. That wasn't an invasion of privacy either. I mean, I know a lot of people thought that was some kind of spyware, adding the Amazon search results and the dash. Well, that's crazy. Obviously, you don't know what spyware is if you think adding search results to your start menu, is spyware. But again, sensationalism. But I thought that was more of a big deal because I thought it did put users off. I thought people that used Ubuntu and used Unity would be put off by that feature. I don't think anybody's going to be really put off by them, having this little checkbox in the installer. Anyway, Ubuntu Mate. Another one down. You know what? Zorin OS 12.2. This is the Ultimate Edition of Zorin. This is their paid version. I actually paid for this version of Zorin so I could review it on the channel. I've kept the virtual machine, mainly because I paid for the ISO. I figured I'd keep it for a little while, but I probably won't keep it permanently. Probably in a few weeks I'll end up deleting this virtual machine. But I will say, for the paid version of Zorin, the Zorin Ultimate Edition, it was a really nice distro. Actually, my review of it was quite positive. Looking back through some of the chat I've missed, the chat is kind of scrolling by, and I've missed some of it, especially while I was going on my Ubuntu rant there. Visual mentions he likes GNOME. Alan Rocco, you like XFCE? XFCE is really a great desktop environment, probably the best desktop environment in Linux for incoming Windows users. I think somebody coming from Windows would be right at home in XFCE. This is Zorin OS 12.2 Ultimate. See if I can find a terminal somewhere in here. I may just have to do a search. You know what? Before I even do that, Zorin is Ubuntu based too. Control-Alt-T. Yeah, so they kept that key binding. I like that. Sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. Getting a lot of the Ubuntu based distros out of the way here. The last live stream, I pretty much spent the entire live stream updating Gen 2 and Arch based distros. 347 upgrades for Zorin OS 12.2. This is the first time I've updated this VM. I don't think I updated it after I installed it. For my video review, I didn't bother updating the system for that. So I'm not sure how old that ISO was. But quite a number of packages need to be updated. Now these are VMs, but if this was an actual installation, you really need to be more careful with the time between updates. It is a little dangerous to update nearly 400 packages on your machine. The more packages you update, the better chance you're going to break something. Just common sense. More packages being updated, the more likely one of them is going to crap out on you. Alright, what do you think of Steam? Do you use it, DistroTube? I actually do have Steam installed on my main production machine. I almost never log into it. I'm not really a gamer. I signed up for Steam on Linux when it first came out, mainly because it was Steam on Linux. I bought 2 or 3 games just to play around in Steam, but I really don't game. To be honest, I find gaming to be kind of a waste of time most of the time. If I do game, it's usually something that doesn't take much time. I'm not going to get into any kind of like role-playing games or anything that's going to take days, weeks, months to finish. If I game, it's usually a first-person shooter. I go in there and I frag as many people as I can in 15 minutes and I get out. So, Ritual mentions, I haven't noticed a ton of negative stuff about the Ubuntu thing. Personally, I'm not a fan of this idea, but that's just me. Not a tinfoil hat guy, and they can do what they want. Yeah, I haven't noticed a ton of stuff like out there in the Linux community. It's mainly the people that write for a living. You know, they're not, I mean, it's not going to get a lot of views if you write an article saying, hey, Ubuntu wants to collect some hardware information, some system information about your computer. It's not that big of a deal, guys. That's not going to get a lot of views. You know, you need to come up with something a little more sensational. Like, you know, Ubuntu wants to use your computer to spy on you and sell all your data to Microsoft, who they're in bed with, you know, something crazy like that. Ron Lee, XFCE is great. MX17 does it well. I agree, MX17 is a fantastic distro. I think it was one of my top 5 distros of 2018 when I did that video. MX is cool, Antics is cool. Yep, Antics was also in my top 5 distros of 2018. Really love both those distros. Out of those two, Antics I liked a little better, but again, I'm a minimal kind of guy, minimal window manager kind of guy, and Antics, you know, came with like 5 or 6 really minimal window managers out of the box. Came with Fluxbox, JWM, IceWM, Herbstluft WM, and 1 or 2 more. I can't remember what the others were. Lamarck, is this the core ultimate version or light? This is Zorin Ultimate. This is their paid version. Lamarck mentions he prefers the light version to be based on XFCE and doesn't have crashes all the time like the core version. Or the GNOME version, okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of GNOME either. Ron Lee, Zorin is cool, but the neon pastel colors are too much. Yeah, I really don't dig like all the neon blue highlighting to everything in this particular theme. You can change the themes. They have some other themes on the system, but they're all very similar. Like instead of this neon blue highlighting, it'd be like neon orange or something, or neon green, but they're all kind of really gaudy, you know. And Chater, I simply don't understand why one-man distro devs aren't collaborating with the main distro. Main and independent distros are always fewer steps ahead from updates. Yep, I agree. I don't mind, you know, small distributions, one-man distros or small dev teams, but so many of them end up doing the same thing as other small teams working on the exact same distro. It got to a point here on the channel where I reviewed, I don't know, very quickly, within the first 2 months I started this channel, I reviewed like 6, 7, 8 maybe Arch-based distros that use the OpenBox window manager. And it got to a point where I was getting more requests to do other Arch-based distros that also use the OpenBox window manager, and I just quit doing them. I didn't want to see any more of them because they're all doing the same thing. Some of these distros, they just need to go away. Those developers for some of these distros, they need to get together. You're all working on the same project. Work together, collaborate, do something great. Visual Vengeance mentions he is a gamer, which is why he was asking about Steam, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not that I hate gaming. It's just a lack of time. I have so little free time. If I'm gaming, there's other more important things in life I should be doing. So. Ron Lee mentions dark themes are easier on the eyes. I agree. As a matter of fact, I've actually been working a little bit on my own kind of dark theme. I don't like any of the dark themes out there in Linux. Really, the only good ones is the Add Weight to Dark theme, which is the default one in GNOME, and the Breeze Dark theme, which is the default dark theme in KDE. Those are pretty good dark themes. Most of the other dark themes out there in Linux are kind of garbage, and none of them are really black, you know, or a really dark gray. Most of them are kind of lightish gray. Some of them have like a bluish or purplish tint to them. You know, none of them do a good, like almost black dark theme. Back in the old days of GNOME 2, you had a lot of GTK2 themes that were really black and looked really good, really sharp. Ever since GTK3 came around, there's a real need for good dark themes. And nobody's really making good GTK3 themes. Not like it was with GTK2. I don't know if it's a problem because it's a little more complicated to make the themes nowadays. GTK2 themes were very simple to create. Also, GNOME has been breaking a lot of themes too. Every time they update to the next version of GNOME, you know, it breaks something with the theming, so somebody's got to update their theme. You know, that gets old quick if you're, you know, the developer of that theme. Archmerge and Archmerged are cool distros. Yeah, Archmerge. I did Archmerge on the channel. I reviewed it. And Eric Dubois of Archmerge is a great guy. Yeah, I'm actually subscribed to his channel. He puts a ton of content out there. Good content, too. Ritual. That was awesome that you decided to buy the Zorin upgrade. Yeah. Yeah, I thought if I was going to review Zorin, I should buy their best product, you know, their premium product. And I don't mind sending money to open source stuff, you know. I mean, I waste money every day. I mean, think about how much money you waste at Starbucks. I can give the Zorin developers, you know, 24 bucks or whatever it ended up costing. I think it was $24 what I ended up paying. Alex in the chat mentions, what do you think about the Budgie desktop? I think it's great. I think if I was going to run a full desktop environment, the Budgie desktop is probably my favorite out of the bunch. The one thing that prevents me from running the Budgie desktop is multi-monitor support. I have a triple monitor system, and Budgie, right now at least, will not let you put a panel on more than one screen. And for me, that's kind of a deal breaker. I mean, if you're only using 2 monitors, you know, having a panel on one monitor or the other is not bad. 3 monitors, that's kind of a big deal. If I was using 4 or 6 monitors, that would be a major deal breaker. So hopefully very soon, you know, maybe in the next version of Budgie, the next major release of it, they'll do a little more work for multi-monitor support. Lamarck, tell me the worst distro you have tested so far. I have tested several that I didn't even put on camera. So I've reviewed probably, I don't know, 100 distros on this channel. This live stream here will be my 120th video in the 4 months this channel's been up. And probably, I don't know, at least 90 or 100 have been distro reviews. But there have been at least, I don't know, 8 to 10 distros that I've downloaded the ISO and tried to install, and they were just complete train wrecks from the beginning. Either the installer just didn't work, like out of the box. I've had some where the installer just wouldn't even function correctly, so I couldn't even begin to review it. or some that the installer would act like everything went fine. It installs, you reboot your virtual machine, and it is a black screen. You have no information. You don't know what went wrong. You know. I don't tell you guys about those distros because I don't like to, you know, I don't like to really hate on open source projects especially. I mean, these are smaller distros, usually one-man distros. And I don't want to, you know, really just hate on a guy that created the distro. Alex mentions, have I tested Ghost BSD? No, I haven't. I've thought about testing it. I've only reviewed one BSD distro on the channel, True OS, and I hated that. It wasn't necessarily True OS as far as the base system True OS. I'm sure it's fine. But that Lumina desktop, that is their default desktop environment, is horrible. Easily the worst desktop environment I've ever seen. And I'm talking about all of them. All the years I've ever run Linux and everything I've ever tested. I mean, I don't know. If you're talking window managers and desktop environments, I've probably used 50 or 60 different ones at some point or another. Lumina was easily the worst. And they're installing this by default on True OS. Is what really blew my mind. I mean, does GNOME or KDE or XFCE not run on True OS? I mean, let's see. Alex mentions Ghost BSD is very pleasant to use, very well done. Well, I might check it out. And True OS, I didn't like yet. I had actually checked out PCBSD a couple of times in the past too, which is what True OS became. It used to be called PCBSD. I never liked it whenever it was PCBSD either. It never seemed like a well put together project. This Zorin update, well, I didn't realize this one was going to take so long. I was trying to pick some of the quicker updates this evening. I really messed things up on that last live stream I did where I updated some VMs, because I think the second VM I updated was Red Core Linux, which is Gen 2 based, and they only have 2 mirrors. One of them is in Europe, and that update took almost an hour. So I did like a 2-hour live stream. Half of it was updating one VM. Of course, you know, we discussed some other stuff during that stream, but I didn't get all the VMs updated that I wanted to during the stream, because I wanted to look at some other stuff other than Red Core. But then once you start the update, you're not going to stop, you know, especially once it starts running and it's been 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm not going to stop it then, because then I got to go back do all that again. Solus is getting a lot of attention and a lot of love lately. And it was also in my top 5 distros of 2018. I really loved Solus when I reviewed it. And I love the Budgie desktop, which somebody asked me about earlier. I could live in Solus, to be honest. Obviously, you know, software is not going to be there, you know, compared to something like Debian or Arch. You know, the repos, not as big. if the budgie desktop was a little bit more mature, I probably would run Solus on my main machine. I'd probably give it a try. Alan's asking, do you know Puppy Linux? I'm not sure who you're asking that to, Alan. I do know Puppy Linux. I've actually been meaning to review Puppy on the channel. I get requests about it all the time. I just haven't got around to it. I've kind of slowed down a little bit on the distro reviews. I try to, do some other stuff other than reviewing distros on the channel now, such as these live streams. Some other stuff. The Obscure Window Manager project has been kind of a nice change too. Got a lot of good feedback on that terminal video I did about 10 days ago now. It was back on February 10th. My video about useful terminal commands such as fortune and calce. A lot of you guys really love that stuff. Which I should do some more terminal stuff, especially more goofy terminal stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do in the terminal that I think a lot of users, I think it's useful if they know about programs like fortune and calce. It gets people using the terminal that normally wouldn't use the terminal. If they know there's like cool stuff you can do with it other than just running, CD and ls and, print directory and all that. If you really want to try the latest and greatest BSD like Arch, then OpenBSD is the option. Okay. Ron Lee, I like your format. You bring variety. Well, thanks, Ron. I need to actually spice things up a little every now and then. I don't want to fall into just the same old routine. Burns me out a little bit. Probably burns the viewers out a little bit. You don't want to see the same thing. Well, Zorin's update is getting close. We still have probably a couple of more minutes on it. Sitting here looking around the web, I saw this the other day and I thought this was interesting. Over at ZDNet, Stephen Javon Nichols, not my favorite Linux writer, but the most popular Linux desktop programs are. So there was a recent Linux questions poll. And let's see. You know what, I may just go to the actual poll instead of read his article. For those of you that have been around a while, you know linuxquestions.org is a very popular Linux forum. And every year they do these polls where they come up with, like, most popular Linux distro, desktop environment, program, browser of the year, that kind of thing. Matter of fact, here's the list of the winners. Desktop distribution of the year was Ubuntu with 18.17% of the vote. So 18% of the vote. That's actually kind of a small percentage of the vote to be the top. But, linuxquestions.org is actually the official support forums for some distros. I know, I think the Slackware guys actually use Linux Questions as their forum. So I bet Slackware was probably second place right behind Ubuntu. Server distribution of the year, Slackware with 22%. Well, there you go. Because, not that Slackware doesn't make a great server, but I don't know. When's the last time you talk to somebody that was running Slackware on a server, like out in the real world? You would expect this to be, CentOS or Debian or, Ubuntu even. Live distribution of the year, Antics with 18%. Okay. Now Antics does get a lot of credit for making a great live disk, so that's not a bad choice actually. Lightweight distribution of the year, Puppy Linux, 29%. Database of the year was MariaDB, 42%. Browser of the year was Firefox with a 57%. Wow, I didn't see that one coming. Desktop environment of the year, Plasma, 27%. Window manager of the year, OpenBox, 24%. There you go. I'm vindicated right there. I'm not the only OpenBox user out there. Audio media player of the year, VLC. That's interesting because I would think most people probably use VLC mainly for video, but I mean you can use it to play audio. Anyway, some interesting stuff here. Looking back at the chat here, Ross, he mentions DWM might be a good obscure window manager to review. Yeah, I've had a few people ask me about DWM. I may give it a look. I've had a lot of window manager suggestions since I started the obscure window manager series. But I have those 12 that I've already picked out. I've got to get through those 12 before I look at anything else. And as I mentioned when I first started the stream, I'm probably going to look at Qtile either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I'm probably going to go ahead and make the 5th window manager in the series. And that will be Qtile, a tiling window manager called Qtile. I'm actually very familiar with Qtile, so that one should go pretty smooth. Funny that the desktop environment of the year seems to be the one dying on Ubuntu base. Alex, do you use Windows? No, I don't. I have a VM of Windows 7. I can't remember the last time I logged into it. I keep it around just to have a VM of Windows. I haven't actually used Windows. I haven't had a computer that ran Windows. At least since 2009 was the last time I had a computer that ran Windows. I started looking at using Linux back in 2008, I think. That was really when Ubuntu was starting to get popular. Like, you would see it mentioned in, like, computer forums. Hey, get off of Windows, you know, take a look at this Ubuntu thing. You know, back when GNOME 2 and Compiz and all the wobbly windows and spinning cubes was a big thing, you know. Really got a lot of people's attention. So I started playing around with Linux on the desktop around 2008. By 2009, I'd given up on Windows completely. I just decided to ditch it. I never went back, never looked at any. I think that last computer that I got rid of Windows on was running XP. So I never ran Vista, never ran 8, never ran Windows 10. I'm actually kind of clueless when I sit down at a Windows computer, like family members, you know, think I'm a computer geek here, you know, can you help me with my Windows problem? I don't even know where to begin half the time on Windows. VLC is like the Swiss knife of the multimedia world. That's true. Which is why VLC is installed by default on a lot of Linux distros. If your Linux distro is not a hardline, you know, we're only including free software, so obviously Debian and Fedora, they're never going to ship with VLC. But if you don't mind shipping, you know, closed source proprietary software, VLC is always going to be the video player of choice on a Linux distro. Ritual mentions there's some problems with the video. Anyone else having some problems with the video? Is there some stuttering or something? I haven't used OBS that long. I've made like 3 or 4 of these live streams with OBS, and I really don't know too much about this particular program. I do know I had some audio issues, some pretty bad audio issues with the last live stream, and I don't know why. I couldn't figure it out, but it may have had something to do with my host machine here. Manjaro had an update of Pulse Audio, and that might have jacked up some things. Alright, Zorin has updated. Alan mentions the video is fine. Yeah, I mean, I can see like a preview window in OBS, and everything looks fine in that preview window that I'm watching, so. Ritual mentions, yeah, it's probably on your end. Yeah, probably. Because I usually don't have video problems on these. Or usually if I'm having some issues, it's almost always audio problems. Alright. So where do we want to go from here? I'm definitely going to avoid the Gentoo based distros this time. You know what? We were talking about Solus. I know it needs to be updated, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, let's see if I remember the password for this Solus VM. I haven't really played around in this virtual machine much lately, but I really love this budgie desktop environment. Like I said, if it handled multi-monitors a little better, I would seriously consider switching from Manjaro to Solus. I hope I remember how to update the system in Solus. In the terminal, anyway. They have a graphical updater, but, you know, I always do everything in the terminal. I believe they use EOPKG. That's their package manager. Well, you know what? I could just go through the shell history here and see some of my last commands here. Yeah, sudo eopkg. Looks like I installed a few things. Up. So sudo eopkg up is to update the system. Now, of course, Visual already posted it in the chat, yeah. Alright, let's see. Got quite a bit to update here. Anything important? Well, looks like the kernel. Linux headers, HTOP, yeah, that's a big update. One of my favorite programs, though, HTOP. It should be installed by default on every Linux distro. It almost is. A lot more distros are shipping with HTOP these days than used to. There's just really no need to install any other system monitor. HTOP has it covered. And it's such a nice, lightweight program. I'm not sure exactly how long updates usually take in Solus. And like I said, I haven't played around in Solus that much. 152 updates, though. We'll see how long this takes. Yeah, when I decided to switch completely from Windows to Linux full time on the desktop. Now, I had used Linux a little bit, you know, testing it out, like I said, for a few months before I made the big switch. And I'd also used Linux on servers for many years, actually. Web servers, you know, I created websites really since was a teenager. You know, I was creating, so back in the 90s even. And depending on what kind of hosting package you choose on some web servers, sometimes you do have to manage them. So I knew a little bit about Linux. But the computer I was running, that was running Windows XP, that last computer, once it died, and I knew I was going to just go Linux full-time. Well, I didn't know I was going to go Linux full-time. I went and bought a new computer. It came pre-installed with Vista. And I booted that computer up, and I played around in Vista, I want to say for 30 minutes, or maybe half an hour, before I went ahead and formatted the drive, and just, that was it. That was the last time I ever had a machine with Windows on it that I actually used. I bought a laptop a couple of years back that had Windows pre-installed, but I never even looked at Windows on it. I mean, I went straight to, you know, installing. I think I installed the Ubuntu LTS on it. These days, you know, like if I needed like a new desktop, a new tower, I don't build them myself. I just don't have that kind of time. It's not something I would enjoy even, you know, I'm not a hardware guy. But what I would usually do is I would just buy some custom built rig from somebody that can either put Linux on it or just ship it to me without an OS installed. I don't even want to buy a machine with Windows on it. I don't even want to give them $1 of my money. Visual, he mentions updates are damn fast on Solus. Well, I hope so. And this looks like it's going pretty good though. Alex mentions he's had issues with the mirrors on Solus. I'm assuming slow mirrors. You know, being a smaller distro, maybe, yeah, you mentioned too far. That's exactly what I was about to say, is you may not have a mirror that's close to you. I've had that problem sometimes on some of these smaller distros. I mentioned Redcore. Redcore has 2 mirrors. What are the odds on you being within a few hours of either one of those 2 mirrors? You know, I mean, it would be like you hit the lottery if you're close to, you know, one of those 2 mirrors. Alex mentions Ike of Solus said he has no plans to make other mirrors. Well, I'm not sure why they wouldn't want more mirrors. Most distros, they can't have enough mirrors. I mean, you're always wanting more mirrors. Visual also mentions you don't want to be buying Windows machines because Microsoft pulls the whole you can't put any other OS on it thing. Yeah, that's true. I'm not, you know, some expert on the whole UEFI thing. I have installed Linux on some of those machines though, and it is a pain how Microsoft kind of makes it difficult to wipe out Windows and install, you know, some other operating system. They really try to make it more difficult than it should be. We were talking about polls earlier, and let me pull up this from Linux Journal. Best web browser. Firefox again, overwhelming, 57%. Chrome, Google Chrome, 17%. Wow. I would have thought, you know, more people would go with, you know, free and open source solutions than that. But hey, Chrome works, I guess. Chromium, open source Chromium, only gets 7%. Vivaldi, 6%. Opera, 4%. Brave, 3%. Qt browser, 2%. I've actually never used Brave or Qt browser, although I probably need to check out Brave at some point. Alright, Alex, Solus mirrors are all in Europe and I'm in South America, so not a good experience with Solus. Is that true? Are they all in Europe? Huh. I haven't looked into that. Let's see. We're still updating Solus here. Installing package 90 of 152. So this update is taking a little bit of time, but not too bad. Nothing I'm gonna cry about. Alex, yeah, the last time I checked Solus about 2 months ago, yes, all their mirrors are located in Europe. Well, that's really unfortunate. I would think Solus would have no problem adding more mirrors. With all the buzz behind it, so many people jumping on board. While we're waiting on this update, I'm going to read through some comments from some of my recent YouTube videos. Yeah, got a viewer named Dan Snickles. DT, can you take a look at Perl Linux? And I responded that I might take a look at it. I actually went to their SourceForge page, Perl Linux. Doesn't look like it's really been active in a while. So I probably will not take a look at that one. You know, I get a lot of weird requests of distros to review. I think some people see a distro and they just, well, that looks cool. Will you review it? And, you know, you go to look at it and the thing hasn't been active in 2, 3, 4 years. And because I've had a few people request me to do distro reviews of distros that are clearly dead. Speaking of old window versions, for April Fools, you can do an XP or Vista look. No, I probably wouldn't do that. What I would probably do is, you know what I might do? I might do an install and review of Windows. I might go buy a copy of Windows 10 and just do one of my like distro reviews of Windows 10. That would actually be kind of cool. I don't think it would be a positive review though, but and of course I said I would never give Microsoft any of my money, but you know what? I might just have to do that one time. Talk about the security and data telemetry on Windows. Yeah. Any review I do of a Windows version is definitely going to include some security talk, or the lack of security talk. Recently on my channel, I mentioned I reviewed Blue Star Linux, actually yesterday. YouTube, of course, demonetized that video. Thank you, YouTube. I've already requested them to review it. Probably tomorrow they'll monetize it again. Every single video I make, it seems, gets demonetized by YouTube. Pretty much like the next day after I make it, they demonetize it. And then I always have to request a review. It always gets monetized again because there's no questionable content of any kind in my videos, but I don't know, something is triggering their algorithms, or I'm assuming it's I tag every video with a certain keyword, and the one keyword I always tag every video is Linux, so YouTube may actually be flagging Linux. I don't know. I don't need to spend money on Windows. Download the free trial version. Yeah, I could do that. That's even better, because I really don't want to give them money. I don't want to support the evil empire. Solus finished updating. Alright, let's pick another one. You know what, I haven't updated, you know what, I'm gonna update some of these obscure window manager VMs. These are the VMs that I use to record my window manager install and configs for FVWM, OpenBox, Joe's window manager, and PECWM was the last one I did. Yeah, Ritual mentions YouTube does that with a lot of Linux YouTubers. Yeah, and you know what? I've talked to a lot of other Linux YouTubers. All of them end up having the same problem. Every single video we make gets demonetized. And I wonder if it's just something with Linux YouTubers, or if it's more than that. I wonder if they're pretty much doing this with all YouTubers. You know, kind of to save a few bucks, you know. Because YouTube is saving a ton of money if they're demonetizing pretty much everybody's video the first day it comes out. Because when do you get the most views on your videos? Pretty much as soon as it comes out, right? That's when everybody views it. So there could be something a little more scandalous going on with this demonetization that they're doing. Alright, so this obscure window manager project here. This is, of course, Manjaro, the i3 edition. Now, which desktop environment should I load up to run the update? You know what? Just for fun, I'll launch Qtile. Qtile actually will be the next window manager I review. So this is Qtile out of the box. Super Enter is keyed for launching the terminal, so, and I'm just gonna run sudo pacman if I can type. If I only had 1.5 beers, you think I could type a little better. It's been a long day, and we're just gonna let that run. Have you tried making your video unlisted for a day before publishing it? No, I haven't actually tried that. I'm not sure if that would work or not. And Santo suggested the same thing. Yeah, maybe keeping it private for a couple of weeks will prevent it from being demonetized. Yeah, that would work. The only problem with that is if I was doing a video on something that was kind of time sensitive, like, you know, some kind of breaking news, you know, you can't make that video and then sit on it for 2 weeks, you know. In 2 weeks, that video is no longer relevant. But a lot of the stuff I do is not time sensitive. Yeah, I could hold on to them for a little while. And let's see. I'm on Fedora 27 with OpenBox. Okay. Yeah, I've never been much of a Fedora user. Honestly, the only Fedoras I've ever used are just the straight GNOME Fedora. I've never actually tried to run Fedora with any other desktop environment other than GNOME. Ron, maybe I need 3 beers. Yeah. Antergos OpenBox is a good distro to try. You know, Lamarck, I've actually had a few people tell me that. I really need to check Antergos OpenBox. I'm sure I will, actually, because that's one that actually really interests me. You guys know I love OpenBox, so, and it seems I really love reviewing Arch-based distros. Oh my goodness, what are we doing? Yeah, we're replacing a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna click yes to this. You guys wondering what I just clicked yes to? All these packages here: Composite Proto, Damage Proto, DMX Proto, Font Proto, Input Proto. They're all being replaced by one package, Xorg Proto. So I've had to do this in a few other Arch VMs, so it's the only reason I didn't read through that. I knew what it was about to ask me. I just hit Y a million times and Alan mentions he just tries Antergos and never boot up, just a black screen. Which version of Antergos, what desktop did you install? Because I've tried both the Cinnamon and the GNOME editions and had no problem with those. And Ritual mentions he had problems running Fedora on his main box because of overheating issues. Lamarck has no problems with Antergos even being a rolling release. However, Manjaro, I guess you had some problems with Manjaro. Oddly enough, I haven't had any problems with Manjaro. I have had some issues with Antergos in VM. I did have one Antergos VM that kind of crapped out on me due to an update. I didn't really try to fix that VM though. The thing with VMs is if it's going to take me longer than 5 or 10 minutes, most of the time I'm just going to go ahead and delete that VM. Because I'm kind of limited on space anyway. It gives me a chance to, you know, hold on to a different VM for a while and play around in. But honestly, probably I'm going to live, you know, I made a commitment to run Manjaro here on my main production machine, which I'm doing. I've been running it on this machine since January 1st of this year. But probably, you know, after a year or so, I probably will move on to something else. I really don't want to run a rolling release distro on my main machine. That's not me. You know, doesn't suit me. I'm more of a stable distro kind of guy. I wouldn't mind running, you know, rolling release distros on, you know, like my laptops or, you know, some older computers for testing purposes, but this particular machine, rolling release, it can cause some problems. For example, I mentioned audio problems. What day was it? It was Saturday, because that was the day I joined that Big Daddy Linux Live podcast, and my audio didn't work when I first joined in that because I was at work all day and I hadn't actually used my computer that day. I sit down, launch the Zoom app that they do that podcast in, and I don't have audio. I start looking at all my Pulse Audio settings, open up the Pulse Audio volume control, and none of my stuff is set right. You know, the microphone and everything is all wonky. You know, the config is completely messed up, and I realized Manjaro had an update that day. One of the programs that updated was Pulse Audio, and it completely wiped out the config for Pulse Audio that I'd set up. So that's the kind of stuff that happens on rolling release distros that just doesn't happen on a stable distro, because a stable distro is not updating something like Pulse Audio, because it's not like a core program. You know, they're not updating Pulse Audio. There's no security reason to update Pulse Audio. Whatever version of Pulse Audio it shipped with, that's what it's staying on. So other common problems with rolling release distros, you really got to watch Xorg updates. They can break things sometimes. I know I've had that happen in the past. Not lately, but in years past. Our Xorg updates. Bad things can happen with them. Of course, real bad things can happen with kernel updates. That's the worst one. If a kernel update goes wrong, I hope you made good backups. And this update here in this i3 edition of Manjaro is going pretty quickly. I didn't even check how many packages were being updated. I wasn't even paying attention when I answered yes to all those questions. But it should go pretty quick. I want to say I updated this virtual machine, I don't know, 2 weeks ago maybe. And it's all like minimal window managers on it, not a lot of programs installed on it. Santo mentions, the last time I used Manjaro with KDE, I left the PC for 15 minutes, and when I got back, the lock screen is running. The OS just completely froze, practically couldn't do anything, had to power off. Santo, I will say Manjaro KDE is what I installed on my main production machine. I guess technically I'm still running the Manjaro KDE edition because that's what I installed. Now I deleted, I removed KDE. I opened a terminal and I sudo pacman, -r, pretty much KDE and all of its dependencies. I kept Kdenlive, I kept K3B, but pretty much all the KDE programs, wiped them all off. Because I was having problems with KDE too. And I did have some freezing issues. I had a couple of times where the computer really had a hard freeze where I had to power off, and that was a problem for me. I couldn't even get to like a TTY terminal or anything to fix the issue. The computer would freeze, and all I could do was just power off. Ron Lee, Manjaro hates me. Alan Rocco, Antergos hates me. Let's see, is it Alger or maybe it's Alger? Not sure how you pronounce your first name, so pardon me if I mispronounce it, but Alger, I have succeeded in break down Debian stable. If you break Debian, you've done something. But given the right amount of time and good effort, you can break pretty much any Linux distro out there. Going back over some of the recent goings-on on the channel, I mentioned I reviewed Antergos, the GNOME edition, recently. Reviewed the PEC window manager. That was the 4th window manager of 12 in the Obscure Window Manager project. Again, Qtile. It's probably going to be made tomorrow or possibly Thursday. I'm going to review the Qtile window manager. It's a tiling window manager. Then my video, the G in GNOME is silent and Linux is just a kernel. That was a little bit of a rant video. Not my usual kind of video. A lot of people like that video though. I guess I need to do more rants. It's not my kind of style, though. Recently reviewed Nitrix Linux. That was not a positive review. Wasn't horrible, but matter of fact, I mentioned my very latest distro review was Bluestar. That was not a positive review at all. Really did not care for Bluestar. William in the chat. What's your main distribution? Manjaro LXQT? Not sure who he's asking that to. If you're asking me, William, though, I am running Manjaro. I originally installed Manjaro KDE. But this is not really Manjaro KDE anymore. I deleted KDE. I run OpenBox on Manjaro now. Matter of fact, I can show you my main desktop. Let me minimize this virtual machine. We'll show you my actual machine. This here is Manjaro. This is a OpenBox on Manjaro. Some pipe menus here. Here's my VirtualBox pipe menu. You see all my virtual machines here. I can just click them and they launch straight away. That way I don't have to bother launching them straight from VirtualBox. I can just launch them right here out of this menu. If I delete this virtual machine, it disappears from this menu automatically. I've mentioned it several times, but one of my favorite features of OpenBox is dynamic menus, what they call pipe menus. If you know a little bit of scripting, you really can do a lot of stuff in the OpenBox menu. Alright, and the Manjaro i3 edition, my VM for the Obscure Window Manager project, it is finished updating. So let's see if I remember the key binding to close Qtile, to quit Qtile. It's not that. It's not that. Okay. The super key, control, and Q. Alright. It only took me 3 guesses. But I've used Qtile a bit in the past, so. Alright. And the stream has been up and running about an hour and a half. Let me pick one more VM to update here. You know, I mentioned I did a recent video of Antergos GNOME. Let's go ahead and take care of Antergos. I don't think I've actually updated this particular virtual machine. I installed this, I don't know, when did I make that video? Antergos GNOME, February 18th, so 3 days ago, but I never updated the system or anything. But shouldn't be that many updates in 3 days. I've never been a fan of the GNOME 3 desktop, but Antergos was actually not too bad for GNOME. And I like that they have a launcher for the terminal right here in the dock. The terminal really is the most important program on your Linux distro. So many of them try to hide the terminal. They don't want to put it in a panel or a dock or any kind of quick launcher, and they really should. Seems like most Linux distros they think they're going to scare away their user base if they have a link to the terminal somewhere. Yeah, only 13 updates. That's great. Heck, we may do one more then, because this one's not going to take but about a minute. Alex mentions he always logs in automatically when using VirtualBox because I forgot the pass. yeah, it would make sense for me to do something like that, except sometimes I actually do use these virtual machines for hours at a time, playing around in them. And if I step away, you know, I don't mind the screen going to a lock screen, and you know, nobody can get into it until I type my password. Especially if I was doing something kind of critical, like updating the system. Especially if it's an update that's going to take forever, like a Gen 2 update. A couple of you guys in the chat are talking about BSPWM. That's another one I keep having people ask me about as far as reviewing that window manager. I probably will look at that one too. DWM and BSPWM are two of the window managers I get requested about the most, as far as, you know, more of these minimal, obscure window managers to take a look at. I probably will take a look at both of those. Anyway, this Antergos update, we are already done with that, so that is awesome. And, you know, since we were talking about OpenBox, let's get a proper OpenBox desktop going. You know what? Antics. Antics does really good OpenBox. Not by default, I installed OpenBox on top of Antics. They do have Fluxbox installed by default, Joe's Window Manager, IceWM, and a few others. Oddly enough, OpenBox is not one of the 5 or 6 window managers they chose to go with. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're just not wanting to do the same thing that so many other minimal distros do, which is OpenBox. No. Okay. Santo mentions Maybox, best distro with OpenBox. Has the best configs by default. I really liked Maybox when I reviewed it, but it's kind of a dead distro. Hasn't been updated in forever and probably won't be. But I really did like that distro. Anyway, Antics here. The screen resolution's kind of messed up here. Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, did it crash? No, it moved to a different monitor. Let me drag Antics back over here. Alright. Well, I guess the screen resolution isn't going to automatically adjust. It's kind of hard-coded to be, I guess, 1920 by 1080, which is too big for this window. But that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and update the system here. So Antics is Debian based. Usually in Debian you need to go type SU for super user, and switch over to the root account to update. I'm not sure if sudo is installed in Antics or not. It may be, but I'll just do this from root. So sudo apt update and apt upgrade, and we'll let that run. Alex mentions he likes the Conky, but I don't have such patience to configure one myself. Yeah, I agree. I used to like playing around with Conky a lot. You can do some really cool stuff. But you know what? It's easier just to grab somebody else's configs and just use their Conky. I recently played around with Conky a little bit on my main my host machine a little bit. What I did was I used two different conkeys that somebody else wrote and kind of used the best parts of each of them. Let's see if I can launch it here. Yeah, that's the last thing I launched here in my shell here. This is pretty much what I did. Was I borrowed the conky that was in Maybox, which is mainly this top half, and the bottom half is like shortcut information. So I'm gonna go ahead and kill that conky though. No reason to have it running while I'm streaming here. I can't even look at it. Alex mentions there's a distro with a lot of ready-to-use conkeys. I don't remember what that distro is. Yeah, I'm not sure which one you're talking about either, Alex. There are a few distros out there that have a lot of conkeys already pre-configured, ready for you to use. A lot of minimal distros that use OpenBox especially. It seems like most OpenBox distros use conky, because most of them, a lot of them remember the old Crunchbang days, and a lot of them are still trying to recreate the old Crunchbang desktop using the tent tube panel and the conky on the desktop. And Interceptor mentions about Eric Dubois on his GitHub. There's a good collection of conkeys that he uses on ArchMerge. Yeah, when I reviewed ArchMerge, the conkeys on that distro were really nice. Yeah, just pull it down from his GitHub page. That's what I did with my conky. I pulled that down from Maybox's GitHub page. Derek, do a comparison vid on Antics and Puppy. Both are cool window manager based distros. Yeah, maybe something I do in the future. I probably just need to take a look at Puppy by itself first though. I still need to just do a review of Puppy. I need to go ahead and really make that a priority in the next week or two. Take a look at Puppy. Oh, we've got some information here in our terminal. Bash. Our bash RC file. What do we want to do with it? Default action is to keep your current version. Yeah, I definitely want to keep my current version of my bash RC file. Sounds kind of dangerous to override it. Eric mentions, this video reminded me that I have to update my BSD and Solaris VMs. Oh, I got some errors here. Let's see. Error processing archive. var, cache, apt, archives. Not sure what that's about. Subprocess, user bin, dpkg. Wow, was there a problem with dpkg? So I wonder, I guess that update did not complete. Let's see. Yeah, it didn't. But you know what? Let's move on to the next VM. I'll come back and fix that one. It's already been 1 hour and 45 minutes. I'm not going to do any kind of troubleshooting here on this video. One more. Let's see which one we want to go with. You know what? Blue Star. I mentioned I didn't like this Linux distro at all. I have no plans of keeping this VM, but I might as well update it. I have it right now. It needs to be up to date. And KDE is going to take a minute to load. KDE is not known to be a fast desktop environment. Alright. Let's open up the console. No, there's nothing to do. Awesome. Blue Star Linux with their panel at the top that's set to intelligent auto hide, which one of the things I hated when I reviewed this distro. I hate that they have that by default. It made installing this a real chore because I didn't even know that panel was up there. So the other thing that made this distro interesting was the install. The install process, I don't know, took 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. But at one point, the lock screen loaded. In the live environment, during the install, you get the lock screen. And you have to enter a password to get rid of the lock screen. You don't know what that password is. You didn't have to enter a password to enter the live desktop environment. You didn't need a password to launch the installer. So when the lock screen comes up, you're completely screwed. So what I ended up doing was just waiting 20, 30 minutes to pass and hope that the installation went well, and then rebooted the VM. Turns out it worked out for me. Alex, what distro is this? Nitrix? No, I deleted the Nitrix VM already. I don't have it to show. This is Blue Star Linux. This was my last video I did yesterday, Blue Star Linux. It's KDE Plasma. It's an Arch-based distro. Wow, system load right now. CPU 67%. Let me kill this VM. Anyway, guys, it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I think I'm gonna leave it there. Updated a few VMs. I didn't hit the Gentoo based VMs, but I'm going to do them in the middle of the night because they can take a while. Sabian and Red Core Linux, those two VMs they may take an hour each or more. What else did I have? Void. Yeah, I need to update Void too. It's been at least 2 or 3 weeks, I think, since I launched that VM. I keep Void around because it kind of like Solus. Void gets a lot of good press here recently. A lot of people, really into Void Linux. That's kind of the new hotness, really. Solus and Void, they're kind of the new darlings of the Linux world. It's what all the cool kids are running, Solus and Void. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there for this evening. You know what? We were talking about music earlier. Let me pull up some audio. It's kind of crazy. I was actually recording myself playing the recorder earlier, and then we were talking about musical instruments earlier in the stream. Let's see if I save that video. I saved an MP3 though. Let me launch this with Dead Beef. It is not playing that file. Do I have it muted?
3 and 4 and
Not going to play. Well, I would have played you guys a little bit of something here, but output. Mute, it is not muted. What? Let's just try something different. Oh, you guys actually heard that? Well, that's weird. I can't hear it on my system, but it was playing. Too loud. Okay, well, I killed it. That's funny. Because I didn't hear a thing. I actually did not know it was playing. That's why I was playing around in Pulse Audio. You guys saw me open up the Pulse Audio volume control. I guess I turned it up too loud. Sorry about that. I hope no one's ears are bleeding. That's strange that you guys were able to hear that, but I couldn't hear it on my desktop here. And I have desktop audio turned on here in OBS, but it didn't play through my earphones. Oh well. We're just gonna leave that. We'll call that a night, guys. I'm gonna go maybe drink one more beer, eat some potato chips, and go to bed. Anyway, I'll try to post a video tomorrow. I think tomorrow I may try to tackle that Qtile video I've been needing to make. So look for that. I'll probably have that posted sometime tomorrow evening. Anyway, hope everybody has a good evening. Thanks, guys. Peace.